Hello and welcome to another development diary for Mongoose Traveller on Foundry Virtual Tabletop. In this video I'm going to go over some of the new features I've added in the last couple of releases. There's been some back-end work as well as some front-end visible features. And also looking at some stuff I'm working on at the moment for my own campaign, which meant adding in some functionality into the system. So first of all, let's open up our character and let's make a attack. Okay, they got a lousy roll, but they still did some damage, so we can still apply that. Let's apply it to that, apply it to there. So that's a lot of damage. Apply that, and we can see our security guard is immediately shown as being unconscious, and they also have a first aid effect there as well. And when we open up the character sheet, they also get listed as encumbered. That's a side effect, the fact that it's the character sheet that calculates encumbrance, so until you open the character sheet it won't know that the token is encumbered. Possibly that's something that could be changed, but for now it works well enough. And yeah, so we have these values along here on the character sheet, and we also have the token effects displayed on the token, so you can immediately see what's happened. Previously we just had these effects and they were actually implemented as flags on the system. I've changed that to doing it the right way, and we're now using active effects for these, which means if we click on them here you can remove them there. If you go to here you can remove them on the sheet, so that what's on the token is linked to what's on the sheet. Now, encumbered is one which doesn't have a cross on it because you can't actually remove it. You could possibly try and remove it from the sheet, from the token, but the guard would still be encumbered because they're carrying more than their strength allows, so it would just apply it back again. And if we did damage to Jean, then yeah, we just get the first aid effect being applied. So what's displayed over here in the chat is some information about the effects. So these currently go to all players. It means people get to see what's happened, so without having to necessarily look at tokens. It means some information is being leaked to the user or to the players, so if the GM doesn't want players to know anything about the health status of tokens, then currently that information will be leaked via the chat messages. I do want to add in an option to either disable them completely or make them private, etc. Feedback on that would be useful. So we don't put the exact hit points of damage done or exactly how much they got left. We just got things like they take a crippling wound, they've taken twice their end in damage. It should be fairly obvious from what the characters are seeing that that sort of effect has happened. So yeah, personally I'm quite happy with players knowing that, and the fact that they've been knocked unconscious, yep, okay, you can see that. Yeah, creatures have similar results as well. The messages are slightly different because creatures don't have damage applied to characteristics. There's a few things added for some of the special traits that creatures have. So if a creature has a trait that means it takes reduced damage, then that will be mentioned in the chat message. Let's create let's actually demo that. Default to creature. Yeah, let's pull you down here. So let's make them tough. Okay, so go back to the chat message. Let's do some damage to them. So we can see that the creature takes reduced damage. They still take a heavy wound and they are injured. Injured just means less than half hits, which means at the referee's option, there's a chance for them to run away. If we damage them again, so it says, yep, they're killed, but it also has a little message here to say roll 2d6 to recover. Was that because tough is a trait in the compendium, and it means creatures have a chance of coming back after being killed. And there's various other traits as well, which are now implemented for creatures. So maybe a bit to say about reduced damage. There's also a concept of minimum damage. So the way things are implemented at the back end. So when you roll this damage, so it's saying you've got 18 damage here. And yeah, the damage is 4d6 plus 3. So minimum damage means you'd only do 4 damage because it's reduced to 1 point per die, and it ignores any modifiers. Reduced damage means d6s become d3s. Again, I think it removes the modifiers. And when this damage is rolled, it actually calculates minimum and reduced. And when you apply this to a creature, it will determine which one to actually use. So though it doesn't display minimum and reduced damage here, that has been recorded, it has been remembered. And whenever you apply it to a creature, so when we applied that damage roll to a security guard, it was normal damage. When we applied it to the creature, it was reduced damage. So that's how it's working at the back end, and that's been expanded somewhat on what was working previously. But yeah, so now active effects are being used for these. I moved away from the old way of doing it. I've basically found the right way of implementing all of that. So that's reasonably straightforward and seems to be working, and that is currently out there. So the other thing I've been looking at is worlds. So let's create a world. I don't know. Let's create Blobby World. So we've got a few extra things on here. This does need tidying up a bit. I'm not entirely happy about the look and feel of this, but as part of, now we're on Foundry 13, we can start moving to the new API version 2 way of doing things. Which means I'm going to have to redo all the character sheets anyway. So yeah, I'm not going to spend too much time tidying up this version of the character sheets because they're all going to need to change. But yeah, so as before, you can generate a world. We can choose populations, and we've now also got a population digit. So that's now implemented, and it'll automatically update the population shown there. And you can set the trade zone there as well as before. Bases are supported. We also have allegiance up here, And what we have here is the ability to add stars and also planets. So this allows us to define a complete star system within a single world character sheet. So we have a look at this. For a planet, you have the option of the different type of planet. If it's a terrestrial world, you get to add these values basically. So you can add actual UWP codes for gas giants. You don't get to. You can also, you've got small gas giants and large gas giants because Deep Night Revelations distinguishes between the two. So I added in that difference, though the World Builder's Handbook doesn't have that difference. You can have planetoid belts, and you can also define something as a main world. So you can shift these around. We add in extra stars. We have a look at the stars. Yep, you can change the values for these as well. So you've got the entire system. I do want to allow you to link out. So if you've got multiple terrestrial worlds, these can link out to other character sheets. So you can have full maps and lists of factions, patrons, trade goods, etc. on there. That's not done at the moment. Currently, if you've got multiple worlds in the system, only one of them actually has all of the information on it. I will at some point add in information such as distance from the star, allow you to define which star each one's orbiting around, that sort of thing. But at the moment, it's simple implementation just to get things working, really. Why was I doing this? Because I'm just about to start a new campaign and I wanted to get all the world data into Foundry, so I had the sector map there for players to explore. That was incredibly boring. I'm sure anyone else who's tried doing it will probably agree with that. So I thought, wouldn't it be so much easier if you could do something like, let's go look for Tobia, and previously you had an option to import worlds from TravellerMap and create journal entries. That's still there. But if you're running TravellerMap within the MgT2e system, there's now an import option. And what that does, it imports it in as an actor. So you've got all the information there, all the world types. They're very simplistically ordered, the planets and gas giants. I'm not sure yet how best to figure out what order they all appear in, but they're there. So you can play, the data's there, so you can play around with it. And yeah, so that will be going out shortly. So for the journals, we create a folder and we put the information there. For the actors, we do exactly the same. We create folders, sort it by sector, and we put the worlds in there. So all that information should be relatively straightforward to import. You can't yet import an entire sector or subsector. That might be nice, but for now, you can do it a world at a time, and even with that level of automation, it should be a lot simpler. So yeah, so still working on tidying this up to get this ready for release, but that should be well, yeah, these extra data items should be coming out in the next release of I can't say it, MgT2e. So they should be coming out in the next version of the system. And once that's out, I'll be able to release the new TravellerMap module. This is a separate module. It does work on 2D6 and any other system, but this new import functionality will only work in my version of the Traveller system. And that will also enforce Foundry 13 support as well. Okay, so that's about it for now. I said I'd try and keep this one relatively short, so thank you for listening.